Welcome to 3Design. In this video, we'll get you started with a quick tour of the program. When you first start 3Design, you'll see the home screen or the root screen. At the top of the screen, you'll find some links to social media and forums. And then you have 4 buttons in the middle here. This is where you're either going to start a new project or open an existing project. The first button we have is access the part module. So this will start a new project directly in the part module. Second, we have open a document. This will give you a Windows Explorer so you can find an existing document saved on your computer. Access the sketch module will start a new project but go directly into the sketch module. And finally, access the modeling module will start a new project but open you directly in the 3Shaper modeling module. Towards the bottom of the screen, we have 6 links. These are 6 of your most recent documents. When you first start the program, these will be empty. But as you create projects, they'll show up here, so you can quickly jump into a recent project. When you start a new project or open a document, you'll be in 3Design proper, where you'll see the screen as you normally would. Let's start with the title bar, this bar going across the top here. The first thing you'll see is the 3Design logo. This is our main menu. We've tucked all of our normal menus that you see at the top of the screen into one menu to save room, so we have more room for other more exciting things at the top bar. But here's where you'll find new, open, save, save as, etc. Next, you'll see some shortcuts. Most of them are grayed out because we haven't actually done anything yet, but the first one you see is save. If you click save, it'll go ahead and save your document. If you haven't saved yet, it'll work as a save as, so it'll give you a chance to name the document and tell it where on your computer you want to save it. Next, you'll see 2 shortcuts that are grayed out because we haven't done anything, but that's undo and redo. These are quick buttons you can use to undo and redo. That's the same as in the edit menu, Control Z and Control Y. Then you'll see the name of your document. We have a generic name by default. Once you do a save as, you can rename that and it'll show that name there. This also shows you the size of your file. This is good to keep track of so your files don't get too unwieldy and large and start to slow down. In the middle of the screen, you have your quick access toolbar where you'll see shortcuts to your favorite tools. This is easy to add and modify, put your own favorite tools in there. You just select a tool from the toolbar, drag it in, and it'll show up where you place it. You can place tools anywhere in the bar, so if you want it to be a specific place. If you want to get rid of tools or rearrange them, just drag them out of the toolbar and then replace it where you want it to go. Or if you're just getting rid of them, just drag and drop them off into the screen. Next to that, you have a timer. This starts as soon as you start the project or the program, and it has very simple controls. Click it to pause it, double click to reset. And then in the right corner, you'll find your normal window controls. Whether you're in Windows or Mac, it'll look a little differently. In Windows, you have the minimize and maximize screen. You have an extra maximize button or restore button that will show or hide the your taskbar, your Windows taskbar. And then an X to close the window. On the Mac, of course, you're going to see the green, yellow, and red buttons for minimum, maximum, and close. There is no full screen option, so you don't have the extra restore window button. So the rest of the screen, of course, is your work area or your viewport. The viewport in V9 and above is going to take up the entire window. You can see it all the way to the edge of the screen. And your toolbars and other windows will be floating on top of that. You can move your toolbars around by grabbing them and moving them. And if you want to snap or dock the window to the side of the screen, if you move over to the, for example, here on the right, you'll see a little blue bar highlight when you're on the edge. When you drop it there, it'll snap right to the side. Another added bonus of snapping your windows, it'll push any buttons or logos and things like that out of the edge so they're not hidden by the windows. Let's take a look at what's in those floating windows. The first one we have is the history tree. The history tree has an invisible background. It's always floating on top of the window. If you do want to see the border or the edge of that window, just double click the handle in the corner and it'll show a blue edge so you can see the window more fully. Sometimes it's helpful to show as well if you're scrolling inside the window. You can grab it by that handle to be able to move it, and that can be docked to the side as well. Your history tree is where your actions are stored. It's going to keep track of everything you do, every tool that you click on, everything modifier that you do to that tool. Keeps a history in the history tree. Depending on how you have your history set up in your F12 options, you'll see a stack and a section of sketches, or you'll just have one stack by default where everything gets stored. You'll learn a lot more about the history tree as you start going through tutorials and watching videos. Next, let's take a look at toolbars, modules, and workbenches. That's all in this right-hand window you see here. This is the toolbar window. You'll see all your tools on the right side. The modules are the different areas of 3Design, and there are 6 icons that could be displayed here. You have the part module. This is where you build your items and your jewelry. The sketch module, where you'll create sketches and draw curves. Modeling module, this is the 3Shaper add-on or plugin that allows you to do more organic modeling using subdivision. The rendering module, which is the built-in rendering module that's included with 3Design. And the deep image plugin module, which is an external rendering, which is really easy to use and developed by our partners at Luxology. And then finally, the advanced parametric module. This is for advanced users. You'll get into this later on when you're training or in the videos. Now each toolbar, or the solid module toolbar, has multiple workbenches. You have the create solid tools here at the top. This is your everyday CAD tools that you'll find in most 3D programs. And then the jeweler's bench, where they separated all the jewelry-based tools, including stones, prongs, ring builders, etc. And then finally the utility features, which goes along with the advanced parametric module. A quick keyboard shortcut for switching between these 3 modules is if you hold Control and hit Tab, you get this pop-up window here where you can switch between the 3 workbenches. If you want to quickly go between solids and jewelry tools, you can do a quick Control Tab without holding the buttons down, and it'll quickly switch between those 2 benches, skipping over the utility features. Finally, the last window you'll see pop up when you click on a tool. So when I click on any tool, like the sphere, for example, you're going to get the properties window. Again, this could be moved around anywhere you like it. The default is in the lower left corner, and you can snap it there if you'd like. This is where you will set up the parameters for the tool that you're using. So for the example of the sphere, I would type in the location and the size, etc. There's buttons for material and naming the object. You'll have a green button. It's grayed out right now because I haven't actually created the sphere, but if I draw the sphere here, you'll see there's a green button for validating, a red button for canceling, and there'll be other buttons that show up here depending on the tool. I'm going to go ahead and cancel that. Design has its own built-in help system. By default, when you first load the program, it's set to auto context help. Basically what that means is if I hover at on a tool for a few seconds, it will open the help system in your web browser. You don't have to be online for this, it just uses HTML to be able to display the page. So you can see here, because I was pointing at the sphere, it takes me right to the sphere page. Close that. If you don't want that popping up in front of your screen every time you leave your mouse hovering, you can turn off auto context help here. Another thing some people do is delay the help time. You can set that in your F12 options. So if I turn off auto context help, it will no longer pop up by pointing at the object. There's still ways to get into the help system. One way is to manually go into that, and that is help topics here, where you hit F1, or you can select it from the menu. If I hit F1, brings up the help system. It'll go to the title page, of course. You can search looking for a specific tool or keyword, or you could use the glossary, the contents, or the index to find what you're looking for. Now, if you still want to find a specific tool's help page without having to have the auto context help on or searching for it, anytime you click on a tool and open its properties, next to the cancel button, you'll usually see the display help button. That will also automatically take you to that specific page of the help system. There is one more window that is normally not shown, and it is hidden towards the bottom of the screen. There's a little blue bar that you can grab right at the edge of the screen. You want to be careful to grab the bar and not the edge of the screen and pull that up. And that's where you'll find your symbol library. The symbol library is full of some pre-made symbols if you install the data portion of your installer. And this is also where you can save your own items in the library. Okay, this window is movable, so if you want to put it on another screen or move it around, if you keep it docked, you can close it simply by dragging the bar, or if you double click right below the bar in this empty area, it will snap close automatically. To use symbols from the library, you just find the symbol that you want. I'll go to the roots bottom level of this here and just double click the item, or you can click and drag it onto the scene, and we'll validate that or cancel it. Okay, there's also a section for parametric symbols. These are symbols that were built using the advanced parametric module. There are some samples built in, and you can also save your own in here. And then stone inventory. Stone inventory will be empty by default. Once you start using the stone inventory tool from the jeweler's bench, you can fill this in with a library of stones. Inside your viewport, you're going to see axes and planes. There's a couple of defaults shown by when you start up the program. You can change those defaults later. The axes and planes are used for helping out, give your item something to sit on, so it's not just floating in empty space. We use the Cartesian coordinate system for these axes and planes. You'll learn a little bit more about this in training and also as you're watching the videos. But I'll give you the basics for now. The axes and planes can also be seen in the top level of your history tree. If you open up that folder by expanding it, you'll see that there are 3 axes and 3 planes. They all start with O or 0. These are the origin planes or the 0 planes. They all start from the 0 or the center of our screen. The 3 axes are X, Y, and Z. You have X flowing along this direction, the Y going the opposite direction, and the Z, which gives depth to our 3D, is going up and down. Now, based on those 3 axes, you have 3 planes, and the planes again give us something to work on, so we're not just floating around in space. We have the OXY, which is this plane here, and these planes also refer to specific views. So if I'm looking straight down at that OXY plane, I'd be looking at the top of my ring, or if I was going from the bottom, it'd be the bottom of the ring. The other plane we have shown by default is the OXZ, and this is also going along the x-axis, but it's up and down, or depth, along the z-axis. And this usually relates to the finger hole or the front view or back view of your ring. The third one is hidden by default. You can change that in the F12 options, of course. But it's hidden because with all 3 showing, it's a little cluttered on the screen. And this is the least used of the 3. You can always use it by selecting it from the tree. It doesn't have to be shown. Or you can right-click it and show it to be able to select it as normal and view it as normal. And this is the OYZ. It's the opposite of the OXZ. It's also flowing along the y-axis and going up and down in the z-axis. And it usually relates to looking at the left or the right side of your item or your ring. To use the planes, you can select them before you start a tool and it'll use that plane for that tool. Or if you don't select a plane, it'll always default to the OXY. That's your flat plane here. So for example, again, if I use a sphere, if I select the OXY, or even if I don't, it'll default to that plane. So when I'm drawing my sphere, it is directly on that plane. If you want to use a different plane, like I said, you can pre-select, and then you can draw your item on that plane. These are the planes that you'll be using the most when working in 3 Design, but later on, as you get more advanced, you'll learn that you can create axes and planes in other angles and directions. You can have an unlimited number of planes and axes in your project. For beginners, you'll start using the main 3 and then learn more as you go. The planes give us a great way to root our objects into something so that, again, they're not floating. They also relate to the views we're looking at. Another great way to look at different views quickly is to use the compass. The compass is this little box you see in the corner. It has a sample ring inside of it. And there's certain parts you can click on to navigate the screen or to change your viewport. So if I click the top of the box here at the Z arrow, I can look at the top of my item. If I click on the red, I can go over to the left and look at the side of the item. And of course the green will take me to the front or through the finger hole. You can also rotate the screen using the compass using these little arcs. They're color-coded based on the axes. You have green, which is the Y, and you can grab that and rotate. Red to rotate around the X, or blue to rotate around the Z. Okay, so this allows you to lock your rotation to specific axes instead of using the right mouse button and freely rotating the screen. There are also some shortcuts inside of there. If you hold Control, for example, you can lock that to 45-degree movements. Some other things you could do with the compass, if you're in a flat view, for example, if I'm looking at the front of the ring, you'll notice that this little circle appears around the item. And if I click that little red circle, it'll do a quick 180. So you can flip from the front to the back or the top to the bottom really quickly. The other buttons on the compass, the 4 buttons on the corners of the compass, are nice little shortcuts. The first one here in the top left corner is the home button. This is very valuable. If you're rotating the screen or you're panning off to the side, when you click the home button, it'll automatically take you back to this 3/4 view that you started with. It's a nice home base to go back to instead of getting turned around and lost. The little magnifying glass in the right corner gives you some view options for mostly zooming and changing your view from isometric to perspective. You can also change your viewports here, so if you want to switch from the standard 3Design 1 viewport to a traditional 4 viewport or any combination of viewports, you can do so from that menu, as well as a Create Movie option located in there. On the bottom right, you have a little slider where you can move the compass. So if you prefer it over on the right-hand side or the left hand or right in the middle, wherever you want, it is locked to the bottom of the screen. So just move side to side. And then finally, the eyeball options here in the bottom left corner, the view of or what's inside the compass basically. You can change from the ring to a necklace, a watch, a snake, or make it empty if you don't want any, and it'll show the axes. Okay. You can also change the size of the compass. Mine's on large right now. You can also do small and medium if you want a smaller compass size. So that's it for a quick tour of 3Design, the different windows and screen and viewports and things you can see. So you might be asking what's next. The first thing is you might want to check out the website. There's lots of information on there. That would be in the US, 3design.us. Or you can go to 3design.com to go directly to the 3Design portion of the Type 3 website. You also might want to consider taking 3Design training classes. These are great ways to get started. You'll learn all of the basics, creating jewelry after just 3 days of training. We offer those in the United States and throughout the world. Another great source of information, and I highly recommend you visit it often, is the 3Design Community Forum. You can find that at forum.3design.com. And finally, the Training Lounge, which is part of the 3Design Forum. If you log into the forum and you have access to, or if you have 3Design Care, you'll have access to the Training Lounge, where you're going to find training videos and all kinds of helpful documents and tutorials to get you started working in 3Design. Your 3Design Care membership will also include new videos as they're created throughout the year. Thanks for joining me on this tour of 3Design, and I hope you enjoy using the most powerful jewelry CAD program on the market.